This John's started what gave you that idea?
Good evening and welcome to the January 19th, 2023 Scarborough Board of Education workshop. Diane, can we call the attendance, please?
Yes, Miss Gammon.
Here.
Mr. Kelleher.
I'm home.
Ms. Leong.
Here.
Mrs. Lindstrom.
Here.
Mr. Mayorino.
Here.
Ms. Tarpinian.
Here.
Mr. Peony Huff.
Here.
Ms. Bertulia.
She's gonna.
And Mr. Shumway.
Here.
All right, would everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you so much. Agenda item 4.0 is workshop and 4.1 is the school board goal setting. So we are going to spend our time tonight talking about our goals for the year. So I put on the goals that the board voted on last year as a place to potentially start from. We can decide if these are goals we want to keep or goals we want to change, remove, whatever we're feeling. So the first one, goal 1 that we had voted on last year was promote and grow a district-wide culture of trust, inclusion, and collaboration. And then anything below it, or the items below it, were the objectives we were going to do. So I guess let's start here. What do we think about this goal, or any thoughts?
Can I just ask, how many total goals did you have?
We had 3 total goals and each with action items. Yeah. That's you.
Oh, that's just a call. Thanks. I don't see why we wouldn't want to continue to promote, grow a district-wide culture of trust, inclusion, and collaboration. I mean, that's something that probably we always want to do, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I agree. Maybe it's just the action items that might need to be modified.
Yeah, I think that I think that it would, trying to think of a way to say this. I guess I think that it would be good if we narrowed down to what's really important to us and not have so many that we can't accomplish everything.
Okay. That's a good point. And some of them could be combined too, really. Well, first of all, number 3
I was
can
just
come
gonna
off.
say,
We've done that.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe we could look at another goal or another action item to continue on with that.
Yeah, and we did number one as well. We did review the school governance structure, so that one could come up as well.
Well,
Unless you wanted to have another,
so. And I don't know, I mean, like that, is that sort of like an ongoing, I mean, do you do that do you need to do that every year? I guess I don't really know.
it was added last year because there was interest in understanding, the governance structure of the schools in the district. So we had a conversation about it, at a meeting. We didn't do a workshop. I think it was just part of a superintendent, update. So that was very specific to last year, not ongoing.
Would
Certainly
that
could
most
be.
likely? I feel like that would have to be a conversation again, if we can get this to referendum and through going to the school, right? Because talking about how the structure of the school district is kind of, you know, that topic will come back up again, right? Because we're talking about consolidating schools and whatnot.
Yeah, and this one was more, almost really what we talked about in your orientation. So who are the building leaders? Who works at central office? What is the chain of command? You know, questions like that. I think for yours, are you talking about when we bring new leaders or?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if right now it needs to happen, but if all the, you know, all the ducks fall in a row the way that we want them to, and things start to move forward. I don't know if this needs to be up here now or not. I'm just saying, I feel
Yeah.
like this conversation would at least be revisited at some point.
Yeah.
What would we be trying to answer if we did a review of the school governance structure at this point? I don't have a question or something to accomplish with that.
Right.
So I think in the past, this came up because the board wanted to make sure that there was a connection between every staff member being heard. And that, you know, so that if you looked at, you know, your building leadership team that then had team leaders who then heard from the voices from these people on this team and that team, so that there was a clear sense that every staff member's voice was somehow represented. Right, and so, you know, that was work that each building had done to say, here's what our governance structure looks like and how everyone is interconnected within that.
But is there anything that it serves doing that now? It doesn't, it seems like this is done.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't, like, I don't think we need to look at that every year. I think the,
Yeah, I
At
feel
the
like
end of
that's
the
in
day,
every
this is what
couple
it
years.
is.
I think that's my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah,
Say, are there any pressing issues that you folks are aware of, that I'm not aware of, that we need to do from a staff point of view or a building point of view that needs to be addressed?
in terms of the overall structure of school governance.
Or I'm just thinking about
Along those
goal
lines.
number one. As the overall goal, is there? Yeah, I guess back to Freyla's point about what are we trying? You know, is there a need, or is this, for me, this is almost like table stakes, because. So if there's not a need, should we revise the goal to where there's a pressing need?
Yeah, I mean, my personal thought is the goal, the overall goal, I think is something that is important to our community, as we know from. I thought you were like finding a flyer or something. What I thought was
I'm just gonna keep kicking this table and
happening.
the progress of this workshop.
So yeah, so I think the goal is needed. I don't know, to your point, if like action item one is needed.
Yeah.
Because I, like Freyla, I feel confident in what we know and what we've heard.
Okay. Oh, so are there, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, are there pressing needs that you see that need to be addressed? That would create an action item.
Within this overall goal.
I see
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah. That's what-
And the overall goal, I
Thank
think there is,
Yeah.
but I think some of these, I think we should get rid of some of these.
Yeah,
And I'll be really clear, like, I think that we need, like I said this before, but I'm gonna say it again, I think our goal needs to be all hands on deck for the building.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that just is gonna take up, that should be 98.5% of our focus,
Yeah,
because it's that important
I
and it's
agree.
gonna take that much effort.
I agree. I'm just looking ahead to see, yeah, I think, I definitely think, one of our other goals, we can maybe look at changing or revising to, 'cause I agree with you completely on that. But this one, I do think there are things that we can take out. Some of this, again, was very specific to requests for last year. One, I feel like I'm hearing we can take it off. I just want to be sure I'm not misunderstanding. Do we all feel good with removing action item 1?
I think 1 and 3, right?
yeah.
1 and 3, yeah. John, you're good with that too?
Well, yeah, whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, yeah.
Majority rules, I don't know.
I would also say just that, promoting and growing a district-wide culture of trust, inclusion, and collaboration is a kind of a goal, first of all, that's extremely aspirational, but then also, I'm not sure that you're ever really there, and even if you are, it's something that requires work.
Constant work,
That's-
yeah.
Yeah,
To be and so even if you're there in some beautiful utopian concept of that, you're still working
still working,
to
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
to keep it, you know what I mean? So it's not like, okay, we checked that off, we're good,
Right.
kind of a goal.
Yeah.
This is about relationships.
Which I'm not saying that we
Yeah.
shouldn't have it, I'm
Kind
just
of the
saying it's,
intentional focus, right?
This is
Right.
relationship building, relationship amongst our community, both staff,
Mhm.
students, parents, wider community, and relationships require constant maintenance.
right,
Right.
that's it, I think that's a great way to put it, Braylon.
I mean,
Yeah.
one thing, maybe we don't review our goals enough to kind of stay, maybe that's something that we work towards, like, how is this meeting, what goal is this meeting? I mean, we have talked about them as a few times over the last year. Just to continue to keep the focus on this.
Mhm.
I don't know how you.
Well, I think you have a good point. We didn't, I think last year our focus was on treading water,
Yeah, okay.
perhaps.
Well, I
I'm trying to think of like a way, like we were, I think it kind of fell by the wayside.
Last year, our big response was how do we get things back to normal? Because it was a whole new normal for everybody. So this was our response to that.
Right.
How can we, there was a lot of polarizing views within the community about how things are handled because no one was expecting a pandemic to happen. So this was all just our response and this was the outcome that came of it. So just
Yeah.
to put that in perspective where we came up with these goals.
Mhm.
Which is why I really wanted to include the feedback from the entire community and make them feel heard.
Yeah,
Part of
and
this.
why the teachers too, right? Like the teachers and staff that were, make sure they felt heard and valued as well.
I feel like there's almost a trickle down effect when we go with what Freylo was saying, where 98, whatever percentage it is, we know the majority of our time needs to be spent on the new school. And
Mhm.
I feel like there's a lot of this built into that
Mhm.
naturally should be happening as well, which will force us to focus on this because we're going to need to make sure we have our own teachers buy-in, our own administrators buy-in, because we want to give them talking points. So, their elderly neighbor, they can educate as to why they should support this or why the family that just moved into town should support this. So I do think a lot of this is also going to fall into our bigger goal too,
Yeah.
even if we don't technically make it part of that.
Yeah.
I also would like to see an addition of sort of like a communication goal, because I feel like there's a perspective when something doesn't go well in the mind of one person, that there's this, I always hear the same refrain, which is that the district doesn't communicate well. I don't feel like I've been communicated to enough, and I feel like, I don't know, I haven't formed it enough to be like, this is what I'm thinking, but sort of, I think we should include something about communication in there. And not to say that the district is not doing a good job. I'm not critiquing the district communication. And I know it sounds like, especially coming off of the last few weeks, which have been a lot of, there's been a lot of stuff to respond to, which has been handled, I think, very well. But I would like to do something to work on the perception that the district doesn't communicate well, and make sure that we keep that in mind of sort of how do we communicate clearly with folks who feel like they're not being heard, or their concerns are not being addressed in the way they want to. And again, I don't think that we have an action item in terms of, this is a place where we have a gap that we're not meeting the expectation, but how do we, because you have to fight two things. You have to actually do the communication, which I think we're doing a good job of, but you also have to work on the perception that the communication is inadequate. And those are two separate but aligned
Oh, yeah.
goals.
I wonder though, if we do have an action item with this though, because the roundtables, I
Oh,
wonder if that's the action item.
not everybody's aware of what we're, of
Oh.
that discussion. So I can.
Maybe you can brief everybody.
So the communications committee is discussed doing possibly quarterly roundtables, just like a very informal, like come and talk to us, say, you know, we'll try to answer your questions. We may not be able to answer all questions, or we're just here to listen. The town council does that. There's varying degrees of participation, but it's just another way. You know, because there's email and, you know, people can call you. That's kind of a little bit intimidating. Coming to a meeting and saying what you're gonna say and having 7 people staring at you blankly, you know, is not super inviting. I mean, it has its purpose, but so we were looking for maybe a way to, what would be a nice way to kind of let the community come in and talk to us about anything they want to talk about.
You know, that makes me think of something that I know the police department's been doing, where it's coffee with a cop.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
And I was like, what a great idea.
Yeah.
And that one specifically, I believe, is geared towards the older population, I think specifically it says that in a lot of their advertisements for whatever their intention is. But I think, you know, obviously we want to include everybody from our perspective and for our purposes. But it could be something like that. Maybe we try it at different times in a day. I mean, I love the idea, because you're gonna get different populations at different times of a day. So if it's coffee, or if it's, I don't know, something in like a 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock time frame, where it's, I don't know, you come up with a fancy name for it, but it allows people to feel welcome. Like, hey, we're literally just holding this so we can hear from you. So we have nothing unless you show up.
Right.
Right.
At our last communication meeting, we did have one person come on from the public. Lovely, and she expressed interest in having roundtables too. She had said, you know, I've spoken to almost all of you one-on-one, and it's just so much nicer and
Mhm.
less scary
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
the one-on-one conversations essentially, rather than coming to a big meeting. So.
Yeah, and it's something we're gonna bring up, well, the plan was for Jillian to bring it up at our next board meeting and for us to vote on. But I was thinking, like, as you're talking, like, because I think for me, the question has always been, what are we missing? We do social media, we do newsletters, we do articles in the town newsletter. We have stuff that we can put in the paper, but how are we not communicating enough? And where are we missing something?
I
And I
think-
almost wonder if this is it, like that face-to-face, just let's talk about things is what's
Yeah.
missing.
So it's interesting, because I was at a conference for my job outside of here last week. And one of the things that it was for sales. And so, but you know, in a way, we're selling the idea of coming to us. We're selling the idea of education, support education. And they talk about how, I mean, as teachers are taught that there's different learning styles, right?
Mhm.
And so our population has different learning styles, the way that they absorb information.
Yeah.
A lot of what we put out is just in writing. And that doesn't speak to everybody. So it's something else to think about, that maybe it's just the medium of art. Do we put out a video? Do we, in conjunction with, I don't know, but
Little podcast.
see, yeah, right, I don't know, but it's something, yeah. I am not setting up for TikTok. Yeah, right.
We'll have a whole thing going.
Well, I mean, they're like step by step, I agree with you. That's what we were chewing on, really, was like.
I mean, I think this speaks actually the issue that's been coming up with the DEI committee too, where people are saying, well, the notes aren't enough for me, right? Not to go down that route, but I think that's sometimes people don't know how to say what they're trying to say. And I think some of that is, hey, here's how I would prefer to absorb and, gain the
Right.
information. And I mean, there's a lot of statistics just from a marketing standpoint that show that video is much more engaging, has much more click-through rates, just in any kind of industry these days. So that's just one thing I'm thinking about, but.
I think that, I think the challenge is from the communication standpoint, initially it's like, well, there's so many different ways that people get their information now, whether it's an email blast, or whether it's social media, or whether it's a text or a group text. So people just communicate in so many different mediums. And even, based on, their generation in some cases too. So the modus operandi for most schools, and, for us too, is like the mass communication, just put it out there. And the challenge with that is sometimes, then it's like, are you over communicating? Are you sending so many messages and so many things out that people are just deluged with information?
Everybody's
Yeah,
seen
they just
that.
are really, exactly.
I probably get on average between 100 to 150 emails a day in my inbox. What percentage of those emails do I actually need to read, digest, respond to, take it to, you know what I mean? So there's just a lot of noise out there when you over communicate. So then how do you try and find that, middle ground so that you're communicating sufficiently and in enough different ways so that people hear your message, but then they also have to digest it and then access it in some cases too. So, but I hear you with being a little more than just the written stuff. Because it's not enough just to say, well, we put it out there, right?
Right.
'Cause, right. That doesn't always necessarily mean like, oh, well, you've communicated it.
Right. I wonder if then the action item, maybe just because we haven't voted on the roundtables yet, and there's other things, maybe it's that we increase the communication, is it modalities?
I would put a focus on communication.
Yeah, like a focus on,
Yeah.
on just
With the
general-
community?
Yeah, just ensure there's clear communication amongst the community and the school, and that goes, and like, that's everybody, and I think that encompasses some of what's in here. With the feedback cycle with staff and administration, like, it's really just, being a good communication. Good communication is kind of like the key to good relationships, and as I said, I've used this as a relationship. So like, good communication throughout, again, I'm not being articulate right now. I just wrestle, like,
She
15
really,
girls.
yeah, she had a whole job with cookies.
Cookies are coming. Your girls are-
Yes, yes, we've already put in our request for you to bring them here.
Um,
So it's like a focus on good, clear communication with the community, with the
I
staff.
think maybe effective communication.
Yeah,
Good,
effective
okay.
communication, that's right, 'cause I mean,
Focus on
more communication
effective,
is not necessarily better. than
Right.
good, yeah.
Well, right, and then also being able to, there's an education component as well, because sometimes people don't know what they don't know, right? So if they either hear a rumor or there's something going on, if they're not sure why it happened or what really happened, there are ways that you can educate, well, as as a principal, this is how you respond to something like this, not to get into the specifics of the actual incident, but to just talk about some of the steps that go into responding to something that happens that, people may be concerned about.
Yeah.
And when questions come up, right, like how do we help our audience know how to get their questions answered as well, right? Because, you know, like, if you are looking for more information, what is the best, you know, the best way in which for that to happen,
This-
right? Where do you start?
Right.
This is, I think, a real problem, because I mean, I spoke with somebody the other day and she's like, I don't even know. I said, well, when sometimes you email the board and it takes a while and, this has to happen, this, and she said, I wasn't supposed to email the board. I said, no, but if it's not a board related issue, it needs to go to the right person. And it's not obvious necessarily to people, especially like they're not even sure how to get their issue answered and.
Or like
It's an
people
issue.
asking questions on their social media page,
Right.
right? Like, probably not the best way to get information.
And also managing expectations, sort of like, how do we effectively manage expectations? So like, you're gonna get a response, you're not gonna get a response in the next 20 minutes, because I don't sit here monitoring email for your.
Yeah, and I almost, and I think that.
Waiting by the phone.
I was telling Jillian. I think too, like, people have, something happens.
Yep.
Right, and people get concerned about something. And so they're kind of coming in midstream, right? And so you're trying to like balance how far back do I have to go to bring you to where we're at, right? So there's a lot of that goes on too. And, I did wonder, even at our next board meeting, it might update if I don't talk about like laying down like some expectations publicly as to when, when you can reasonably expect a response back from me, based on our operating protocols, and when that reasonable time period is.
Well, and what is the role of the board?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
it's back to what is
Right.
the work of the board,
Mhm.
right? Like the work of the board, like you've been talking about this, right? In your
Yeah.
most recent workshops, is not to manage the schools.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It is, to allow the
Mhm.
superintendent to make sure the schools are managed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking, and this is, I don't I don't want to, I'm not a micromanager by nature, so I don't want to micromanager, but like, it might be helpful to have like your introduction to emails, which explains how the email process works, maybe as an auto reply. And then like.
That's what
we'll get
Jillian
back
said.
to
As you were saying this, I was just
Like,
thinking.
just like, it's,
Yeah.
like, because people do, especially people who are anxious or really,
Mhm.
really in
Yeah.
the moment.
That's,
They're like, for them, like, a day does feel like a year because our
Yeah.
society
Yeah.
runs.
Well,
at a very-
right.
Well, and it is a big issue.
In some cases, this is definitely has been a recent learning of mine too, is that silence is deafening.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and in a lot of cases, even if it's just like the auto, or I've received, and just acknowledging that you've received the email and the message.
and what to expect, I think,
what-
like,
Yeah.
Well, and then that's gonna depend on the nature of the email, right? Or that, but it just that quick response of your email has been received.
right,
Yeah,
It
it-
didn't go to a spam folder.
Yeah.
At least that can be.
yeah, right. I mean, just an acknowledgement of receipt is huge, but
Yeah.
I mean, like. For the board, like, the whole, you are not going to get 12 replies,
Yeah.
thank God.
Yeah.
But, we will all read it,
Yeah.
we need to discuss, we need to formulate a
Mhm.
response, we need to, maybe need to talk to other parties
Yeah.
involved before we can respond, so please know that, I don't know, I do feel like there's that anxiety
Yeah.
thing, especially if you don't know anybody on the board, and you don't-
Yeah, and again, like you're coming in mid-cycle, right? And
Right.
it's because you have an issue right now, right?
Right.
And for you, it feels huge, for you being the writer, right? It feels huge and it feels all encompassing. And for me, I'm just trying to get an understanding of what happened before I
Right.
even,
Right, yeah.
Right,
I don't want to and make situations even worse, right? And so I'm trying to hear from Jeff before I respond. And so, yeah, but I do think sending out we've gotten your email, please know the full board, I can write up like that intro.
Yeah.
I've been
Honestly,
sending.
I think it saves you and provides you more time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To be able to do what you need to do, rather than if I were you being the lead person who's responding, I'd be stressful being like,
Yep.
I'm stressed, I'm waiting to talk to Jeff because this person's,
Yeah.
on my back. And So I think it relieves a little bit of that
Mhm.
on your end, but also hopefully on theirs too, saying,
Yeah.
okay, here's the process. Okay, yeah, I didn't actually talk to Jeff first and I'm
Yeah.
going to the school, like maybe that's part of the auto reply, so.
Well,
Yeah.
like, we don't have a good, I couldn't easily find, like a, you have your like tree for work, like, go first, you go to your manager and then you go to this person, or you go to, whatever.
Yeah, didn't we have, it
Yeah,
was,
organizational.
Like a-
oh, an organizational
Like,
chart.
Which, just like, here's the organizational chart in terms of, who.
Have you gone to?
Right.
This
Yeah.
person?
Like a-
And then it
We
needs
have
to
that
finish.
document, and I can look up it, because maybe that's, we should verify, but we took that, solving things at the lowest level document out, and it was supposed to move to the parents page. Remember that? So that one
Yeah.
tells you, like, this is where you start.
Right.
Would there be a way to
but-
make a button on the webpage? Like, do you have a problem right now? Click here. That's how you do it. Yeah.
You might have more emails than you want.
And like, this is really bad. Like, this is really bad for me or for my family right now. You don't have time to read the policies and learn the alphabet, because I don't know the alphabet. I'm supposed to know the alphabet because I'm on that committee. And like, figure out where the policy is, like that's
Yeah.
intimidating, like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
accessing.
It's a lot.
policies is hard.
Yeah.
Right. and
Well,
no-
it needs to be like, it needs to be like, this is it, and then this is, and then that's the information, and I think, like. You can't solve the big issues, right? Like, if someone has an issue and they have a problem, like, you can't solve that problem in that moment, but you could reduce anxiety by
Right.
giving them some measure of control, which is telling them exactly what steps to take. And that can just bring the temperature down, so immediately we'll bring the temperature down.
Right, I think so.
Yeah,
too.
and I think 9 times out of 10 too, if it's some, usually they're elevated because of something that either happened with their child or, that kind of thing, and if there hasn't been an attempt or knowledge at the building level of what happened, then obviously that's where you start, right? And that's a quick kind of redirect.
So can we add here, like simplifying the process for communication?
Maybe
Yeah.
simplifying and publicizing in a way, because I feel like people, as much as we like to think sitting here that we're very important, doing important things, I don't think people tune in, like,
No, they
Think
tune
about-
in when they tune in.
right, they tune in when it's
When it's
required.
necessary,
Right,
yeah, yeah.
and so nobody's paying attention when it can help them in the future. And so that's why I'm saying the
Yeah.
publicizing piece, because I'm sure it's happening. It's just maybe, again, going back, maybe there's a different way we have to communicate it. Or
Mhm.
maybe it comes, I don't know if all the principals are doing this when they have like, introduction family nights or whatever, the beginning of the school year, or maybe it's something else that during parent teacher conference nights, there's another handout or something that comes across, not as like, hey, we want all your issues,
Right.
but like, hey, here's a friendly reminder that we're here to help you.
Yeah.
And here, let us educate you at the same time as to how we can best help you. Because if you go about it your own way, you're going to cause a ruckus all over town. And then we have to figure out, okay, who's on what page and
Mhm.
who's the lead, it becomes more chaotic,
Yeah.
I feel like, in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the first one we had was focus on effective communication with the community, staff, and students. That was going to encompass a few more that we'll talk about in a minute. And then a second action item is simplify and publicize. What did we say? What did you say?
Don't remember. See,
Your help button.
simplify-
I think we're just saying,
I think we can maybe add it to the first one.
I think it's,
Yeah.
that's
Oh.
effective communication.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A help button
we'll
is
just make it one.
effective communication. I mean, that's like micro
Both
level.
from the district and to the district.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going both ways.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right, how
That's
to
good.
communicate, yeah.
Okay,
I-
okay. I'm sorry. It takes me like 5 times to hear
No, no.
something. So we're not making 2 separates, we're making one action item. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so focus on effective communication with the community, staff, and students, period. And then simplify, are we still saying those words, simplify and publicize?
Yeah,
I think that's,
communication avenues.
but it's all encompassing effective. effective.
Oh, you
means
think it's
good
all there?
communication. I
Okay.
think it's all, I don't, like, this is like, unless we're doing like strategic plan and like we're on like the little number Roman numerals, like over here. Like that, the help button is like as far micromanaging as you can get. That's like
Yeah.
a very discrete, like, I don't think that's a big goal, the macro level. That's a
Yeah.
micro.
Yeah, I think out of
That's
this goal
micro.
comes a much larger conversation
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
a different point, which clearly we all have so many ideas for, which I think is good. So it shows that it's a valid goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and we can, I kind of, well, that's a later, I'm still thinking through the org chart idea, but we can do that, that's a later.
So I'm just reminding you that it is 6:35.
Yeah.
We're on
Yeah.
item one.
Okay, so, yeah, so do we think that focusing on effective communication with the community, staff and students, that encompasses number 4, do you think that encompasses number 5 as well?
What was number 5 responding to? So that was a very specific getting staff input
Yeah.
on the
Budget.
budget.
Yeah.
And they are, because we've got those, we had those meetings, which they are allowed to attend, and I can't recall if we did it the year before, and that, I can't remember, was it the same way? And they work, with Jeff throughout the budget process, right, that started, but I'm trying to remember what that was specifically for last year, does
think
anybody else remember?
Last year was a heavy negotiation. year. So we were hearing a lot, and I think that was a response to the feedback there.
Okay,
Whereas this year, I don't think we have any pressing negotiation.
So are we
Yeah.
saying the one that we just wrote fulfills 4 and 5?
I feel like it,
I mean, like, if you wanted to have bullet points at like the action item and how, then that's where I think that those would go. I don't think you need,
Right, there's
Same.
sub bullets underneath.
yeah, we don't have. to-
Right, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
but, you know. Like, we don't need number 6. In the way, at least in the format that it is right now.
Number 6 is done,
Yeah,
that's been done.
Has it been, so the charter was completed
Yeah.
where the policies have been.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cross off the list. So
So
this
yeah,
still
we
got-
got crossed off already, it's more than half of these.
Yeah.
so.
Here we are, we're down to, so we would be down to 3. I would have 3. The 2 staff and student-centered workshops annually. We did accomplish that last year. That was again, a very specific request last year. I do think the students have really beefed up their monthly presentations to us. I think they're really, really cool too. So we've kind of had it from both sides. We've had it in the meetings, and then we've also, not that the students didn't run a workshop, but we had Monique in to talk about student data in one. We had Monique and Jennifer to come in to talk about student safety. So you know what I mean? So we've had those workshops that are student and staff focused. So is that something we want to keep? How are we feeling?
I mean, I feel like that's a reasonable thing to continue, although, yeah, I mean. I think that we should have that kind of stuff. I don't think that's like a done over with.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something that's overwhelming for our goal,
Right.
especially when we're focused. Yeah, we have other things to focus on, but that's still important and easy to accomplish, I feel like.
All right, and then the third one, the other one that's left is to continue the DEI subcommittee consistent with the committee's charge to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion at all levels.
That, I mean, that is an ongoing
Mhm.
thing. I mean, maybe in the same vein of communication, maybe you know, help that committee be seen and maybe communicate what they're doing, what their goals are. And that might just come in the form of updates. I don't really know. They have to decide that.
Yeah, and I think we probably can remove the continue this subcommittee because it is
I was gonna say
continuing.
that,
So
yeah.
I think what we could update it to say is consistent with the DEI committee's charge, promote diversity, equity, and inclusion at all levels.
Mhm.
We
That
can
makes
just
sense.
update it.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise then you're gonna have this every year, just gonna
Right.
say continue.
Yeah, we don't
continue,
have that for the other
continue.
committees.
Right, that's what I was
Last
thinking.
year we're in a different place, because
Yeah.
last year the committee had met for a year.
Right, exactly
And it was
that.
it was just determined whether and how it would be constituted.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was a good goal. Right.
All right,
Number 2.
goal number 2. Look at us moving right along.
It's 6:40.
We're gonna definitely get it done.
You didn't.
How many
assign me-
workshops are we gonna be doing this?
I took that on.
Thank you. Yeah, we like, obviously we need that. All right, so goal 2, continue to collaborate with town council to align school growth needs with other town department expansion or development projects. So this is the one I think we can rework to really where we're at, right? And the all hands on deck mentality.
Yeah,
I think goal 2 is to get a school built.
Mhm.
Like, it needs to be that basic.
So
Like, their
collaborate with
goal
town
is to get a school built.
So collaborate with town council to build a new school.
Yeah,
Yeah, and keep it simple, right?
let's not, yeah, I don't want to be like, we're not playing around. Like, this is really clear what we want to do.
yeah.
And,
So we not include the town in that as well?
yeah, the town's included, whether they like it or not.
No, I mean, you know, just say, it's just not just us and the town council to get it done. I think we
Right.
should,
Collaborate with,
if we're gonna put this stuff out there, we should definitely include the town to not make them think that, okay, we're doing this whether you want us to or not.
Mhm.
Oh, I like that, Dan.
That's
Diane
great.
said, what about collaborate with the town council in the larger community to build the new school?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. She just cleaned it up. That's
No, I don't
all.
care if you clean it up or not. That's just, that's what I'm getting.
Diane's just more succinct.
You can polish a turd, whatever you gotta do.
That's great, that's great. I'm so excited that's recorded.
Collaborate with town
I could have used
council.
worse language and I didn't.
Collaborate with town council and the larger community to build the new school.
Is it K-3, building a K-3 school?
K through 3 school.
Well, I don't, you know,
New
you don't
primary
know.
school?
Yes.
Primary school?
Primary
Thank
school.
Okay.
Sometimes you think it's helpful, often it
Yeah.
isn't, but sometimes it is.
You didn't meet
Gives-
your goal. You added K to pre-K.
Oh, I would have to if I can, but I can't.
No, I mean.
So.
All right, well, 3 in this is done.
Yes.
That's been finished.
Mhm. Okay.
That's Harriman. Harriman's a vendor. They've created a communications plan and a communications subcommittee on the building steering committee. They've got a social media presence. They created the website. They are actively putting
Yeah.
bulleted information in the newspaper, maybe,
Yeah.
information sheets in the newspaper. So that is alive and well.
So 1 would be to acquire land, 2 would be to have a plan, 3 would be to get the referendum passed. That, I mean, what is the building steering committees? They have the goals. We just need to take their goals.
That's what I was
And
gonna
make them
say, like, please see
Yeah.
steering committee's goals.
Work with the steering committee.
Continue to support the goals of the building steering committee, maybe because.
Okay, hold on one second. Acquire land for the school. What did you say
I think
second?
consistent with the building steering committees, what do they call their plan? The to-do list. We don't call it the to-do list. but-
Consistent
Yeah,
with their goals,
Yeah, they're-
consistent
yeah,
with
their
the,
goals.
Yeah.
okay, so the big goal may be collaborate with town council and the larger community to build the new primary school, consistent with the building steering committee's goals
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
in
timeline.
timelines.
Yeah,
It's 2 different variables.
that's important.
Yes.
Okay, so goal 1 for us, like action item 1, I mean, would be acquire land for the school.
Yeah.
Action item number 2 is,
Do we do that or does the town do that?
we do it,
Together.
well, they would be the purchasers, but we
Okay.
do it
Jointly?
jointly,
Okay.
yeah.
Do we have, how much of a plan, so this is what I don't understand, even though I've attended some of the meetings. they have to have somewhat of a plan in order to do the budgeting, although it sounds like they're already done a lot of that to get the referendum passed. But like the issue is you don't know exactly what your plan's gonna look like, but you need enough of your plan to get your budget, so you get your referendum. passed. So
Yeah.
like 2 would be to have a working plan in order to effectively draft a referendum. And the third thing, which is the most important thing, is to get the referendum passed. Unless I'm missing something, but that's what I
Is
took
there
away from
a-
that was my takeaway from the committee's
Is there
presentation.
an intermediary step where we need approval from somebody to get it on the ballot?
That would be
Yeah.
the referendum, the town council has to, but that's the overarching. work of
Right,
the
town
town.
council gets it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
If we have to recommend it, they have to approve it.
So, when you say the plan, are you meaning the buildings like footprint? Plan?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
from what I understood, we need enough of a footprint, enough of an idea to get the budget, which is what you need in the referendum, right?
yeah.
But it's not gonna be fixed, because it might evolve as buildings do when they're being built.
Right.
So we're almost, hopefully,
I know.
getting there, but they are on task. They are on their timeline, their expected
Yeah.
timeline. So that will become, we have to have a number, but they know basically.
If they're building based on
Size.
needs, yep.
Right, so there, I mean, there's,
It's the programmatic notebook, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
right, so we've got an idea of, you know, the design elements and done a lot of work on the building design, being able to establish the overall cost of the construction and then factor in the variability of site, right? So the site is still,
The big
Right.
open question.
you know, a big open question and
Yeah.
once that is settled, then it's, you know, it'll obviously make that projection or those numbers a lot clearer.
So maybe
And
we
then
don't
also
even
have it
need
feel
that.
more real. What's that?
If we can kick out anything of the goals that we need to do in this, that would be good. Like, we want less to do here because it's a
Yeah.
really big job. This is a very heavy lift.
So is it really just the two things? Acquire the land, get the referendum passed?
Yeah, maybe also we can say in the most fiscally responsible way, which is really important to, for a lot of people to hear.
Yes,
I like that.
I think that's perfect.
Okay, so let's see. Collaborate with town council and the larger community to build the new primary school consistent with the building steering committee's goals and timelines and in a fiscally responsible manner.
That's beautiful.
Sounds perfect.
That's
Beautiful, next.
Look at us.
That'll feel.
And then the
good.
two action items are acquire land, get the referendum.
Unless someone else, I mean, like, I'm not on the building, like, I'm not on the building. committee. This is from like their little workshop. in
Mhm.
September.
No, this is, yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense because the steering committee, there's a lot going on there. That it's like, why are we gonna try to reinvent something that's
Right.
already happening?
They're
somewhere?
doing it.
Yeah, and they are doing the heavy, they're doing a lot of the work.
Right.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot, and they're doing a lot of, very
Mhm.
clear from
Oh,
their
yeah.
planning, they're doing a lot of work.
Absolutely. All right, here is goal 3. Continue to strengthen student success, achievement, and well-being through ongoing development in all subject areas, district-wide student support opportunities, social emotional learning, and through district-wide DEI work. So, and then the action items underneath. The one I will tell you, we did not get to that because we've been waiting on state results and you might remember at our orientation, Diane and Jeff suggested that we just kind of change our focus on that and just focus on Scarborough for now. Yeah, so Jeff is actually working. We should have hopefully have our first quarterly update at our next board meeting. So I guess I kind of feel like this, like communication is an ongoing
Mhm.
thing to continue.
Yeah.
Is that something that would be put out to the public as well?
Yeah.
I think people, that's great.
Yeah, so that would just be
Very interesting.
held during our regular board meetings. Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
again, and
wonderful.
the challenge with like reporting MWEA results is that, you know, they're still working on establishing where the cutoffs are for different performance levels.
Right, so like the baseline
So
we
it's
couldn't,
not- I can give you, like, we can release like, you know, scale scores and stuff like that, but we can't tell you what proficient is and what close to proficient is because those cutoffs have not been agreed upon or established.
By the state.
By the
You know when they might expect to finish that work?
Not anytime soon.
Is there,
my understanding.
if you were to have your own input, like, do you have, between you and Diane, do you have what you think is?
Oh, that's a
Or
big.
Is that a loaded
There's
question?
no historical
Well,
data.
Yeah, well, it is because you can't, right.
The minute we
Yeah, the
set
test is
something and then the state sets something different, right?
The
that
challenge
puts
is,
us in a
the
precarious
challenge
situation.
enough to the historical data thing, which we've already kind of touched on, and I know. If Monique was, could explain it clinically at this point, probably not, because she's probably too angry about it, but, right, like. As explained before, it's very difficult to have any kind of to draw on any historical data when the goalposts essentially are moving. And then how you're assessing skills
Yeah.
has changed
Big
significantly
time.
year to year too. So that's just an ongoing challenge. I mean, the good news is that, you know, we've got some local, you know, benchmark and assessment data that we can use for intervention purposes and all of those things and be able to report out on that. But it's, again, it's a local
Yeah.
Yeah.
metric.
But that makes.
That
it
was one that was also.
Yeah.
We don't need to know how good our good students are doing. We're glad they're doing good and we can celebrate with them in theory, but like, we need to know where to.
Yeah.
That's the value of this, of the measure.
Yeah, so the baseline that we were waiting to establish is, like, to Jeff's point, is not there, right? So it's establishing that baseline within Scarborough. That's
Right.
essentially what they said. So we can, I think that's what I heard you've got that. So we can
Remove that.
remove that one, right? Is that correct, Jeff?
So the stone tablets go down.
All right, but the superintendent will report quarterly progress. Like, I would like to keep that because we haven't been able to do it.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I would like to keep that one. And then we did set goals. So number 3, I mean, his goals are always based on our goals.
Yeah.
So I feel like 3 can go too. Do you feel like 3 can go too?
Yeah.
Does it feel good about 3 going?
Yeah, and I think 2 and 4 are the same thing.
That's what I was just gonna say as well.
2.
We're monitoring because the superintendent's telling us.
Right, so we really just have like one action item then. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, do we have it? I don't know any of the data on like our dropout or our graduation rates. Are there any concerns in our district with that? Because that's one of the
That's
things on this
interesting.
that would be important to me. I've never heard a concern, but I'm not familiar with the data. But we're doing okay. We're not worried about how our
Yeah,
progress is.
and I mean, I think that's, you know, something, again, when we share progress, we can include those statistics if that's helpful.
Yeah, that would be, because I think too, I remember last year talking to Jeff about this, when someone is in danger, it's not like April 30th, they're like, oh, well.
How did you like the grade?
Yeah,
'Cause you're doing it
that's,
again.
yeah, so it's like, it's a year-long, like,
Yeah.
getting them
Planning with students.
planning the
Right.
whole time, right? So I think that when you've got that, you do kind of have that data you can fill in throughout the year.
Yeah, we had a meeting once about dropout prevention. and
Yeah, we need to get back to that.
do, but, yeah, I mean, Diane was really informative and, you know, explaining that there are alternative methods for our students.
That's great.
Goes back to.
Wow. All right. Well, guys, somehow we managed to, is there a 4th goal, or do we feel good with those 3? Remember, we are going to redo this again in June because we have to realign our schedules to the new election cycle.
I have 2 really like semantics issues. which
Yeah.
I'm sorry, occasionally pop up. First is we should probably update the years at the top because those are 2022, 2023.
Oh, yeah, I have a whole new one going. Yes, I have a whole new document going.
And I would really like to put goal number 2 as goal number 1 and drop goal number 1 down to goal number 2. I think that's our major focus. And I think, again, this is kind of stupid because who's gonna like read the goals, but I think we should structure the goals in order of like how
No, I like
significant
that.
they are, because that is our number 1 goal.
Yeah.
So also, I mean, are these going to continue through, like, move just like the other, you know, like the election process go from like now until June of 2024?
These are to go now until June of 2023.
And then
And
we'll
then,
reset
okay.
them.
And then we will reset them in June.
Okay,
If we
for,
need to.
if we need to, yeah, because we don't know, but in June of 2023, we would keep them reset whatever from June until June.
Okay, yeah. that
And
makes
because
great
June in
sense.
2024 is when we get new people
Right,
or
so
not.
it'll be like June.
Are we
July.
setting, sorry,
No, no.
are we setting the date for the goal setting dates is the second is the second meeting in June, so it'll be after the election, not for the election?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, just make sure we don't miss
We're gonna
that.
get it in right before.
Yeah, like we're gonna set goals for you.
Yes.
Enjoy that.
Congratulations.
Yes. Here's your to-do list. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we, but I do think, like, to your point, like, who's gonna read the goals? Maybe this is something that goes on our website.
I think it should load.
Yeah. Like, we haven't done that before, but yeah, we should put them out there so everybody knows
Yeah.
what's happening.
Right under where all the board members are.
Yeah, and the help button, the new help
I
button.
love the help button. I want like red. Help.
All right, so what I'll do, we have 5 minutes until 7, so I would like to go ahead and adjourn so people can go to the restroom and reset. So do I have a motion to adjourn the workshop?
So moved.
Second, yeah. Can we call the vote?
Mrs. Gammon,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong.
Yeah.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Marino,
Yes.
Ms. Tarquinian,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Hop,
Yes.
and Ms. Dunaway.
Yes.
All right, we'll see you in just a
Show
few
I said
minutes.
no.
Very good evening and welcome to the Thursday, January 19th, 2023 Scarborough Board of Education meeting. Diane, can you call the attendance, please?
Sure. Ms. Gammon.
Here.
Mr. Kelleher,
Here,
Ms. Leong,
Here.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Here.
Mr. Mayorino,
Here.
Ms. Turpinian,
Here.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Here.
Ms. Bertulia,
She's been excused.
and Mr. Shumway.
Here.
Perfect, thank you. Would everybody please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item 4.0 are adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments this evening?
No adjustments this evening?
Perfect. Agenda item 5.0 is public comment on agenda item. Is there anybody wishing to make public comment this evening? Seeing none, we will go ahead and close public comment. Agenda item 6.0 is a Scarborough High School Oak Hills Players update, and I will turn this over to Jillian.
All right, so I had the pleasure of seeing this. It was a masterclass that students got to participate in with these two professional Broadway musicians, and then they all went out and sang, and it was amazing. And we have somebody here to come talk about it. Deb is the director of Oak Hill Players, correct?
I am. First of all, would you like me to use this? Yes. It's pretty loud, but I'll use this. First of all, thank you for asking me to come in and let you know what we're doing in OHP. I've been with OHP now for 5 years. That doesn't seem possible, but it's true. I have been at the middle school now for 2 years and 5 years with OHP, and I am enjoying the students in Scarborough so much. It's been absolutely a pleasure. These kids are wonderful kids, and they deserve every opportunity that they can be given. And that's my passion, is to provide those opportunities for them. We have about 50 students involved in each program. Which came, we had lost some at COVID. I mean, you all know how COVID went, and we lost some at COVID, and now we're rebuilding and things are just growing and growing. And I want to thank the administration. I want to thank Principal Ketch, Mike Legage's office, the activities office, for the support that they give this program, because this program does wonders for these kids. Theater builds character way more than the stage. They learn to interact together. They learn empathy. They learn to share. They learn how important it is to be part of the cog of that wheel to make something happen. And we try to instill good values in them. And I am so proud of the group that is at the high school and middle school. I had my first rehearsal today for Into the Woods. So I'm just coming off of that. And I'm just heart thrilled because of the fact that the students are so enthusiastic. I have a little video to show you so that you can see what we're doing over there. I'm going to explain a little bit about it because it's not exactly, you'll just see it, and I would like you to know what it is. The first part of it is scenes from Little Shop, which was our show this year, Little Shop of Horrors. And in that, doing that, the students learned empathy because they had to find out what it was like to be in the dregs of the 60s on Skid Row. And they have to understand that to portray it. So we spent a lot of time talking about what that life was like, and how desperation can make even good people do something that is not so good because they're desperate. So they learned that. The second part of the video you're going to see is from Zoomsicle, which was our COVID presentation. The kids were so enthusiastic. They didn't want to give up the show, even though we couldn't be in there. And so they worked from home. They would take their computers out. They would practice in their living rooms. They would record and send to us. And we put together a show that we streamed nationwide and 33 states watched, which was just, I was so excited because, and the audience could comment as the show was live. And so they could type their comments into the kids and we had 33 states involved. It was really exciting to do that. And then the third part is the masterclass that you saw. And it's just an excerpt. And I picked one student and put her in, Elizabeth Aubrey, who's a junior. I picked her because she's a soccer player. She's not a theater kid. She wants to be, but she can't because of the conflict of time in both of those things being too much. So bringing that opportunity to her to a short program allowed her to step out and show what she could do. And what happens at the masterclass is I bring up two Broadway performers, Matt DeAngelis and Christine Dwyer. Matt did, he was in once in the international tour of once on Broadway, Hair on Broadway, Waitress with Sarah Bareilles. He played opposite her. And Christine had done Elphaba in Wicked over 1,000 times on Broadway. So these are real seasoned professionals, and they came up for a whole day and they coached the kids. They coached them, some of them had one-on-one coachings, that was audition slots, and they would spend a half an hour with either Matt or Christine getting coached in their performance, and they got to perform that night with them. And it's just short excerpts from what they all did. And they walked out of there proud, just the way they should. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that with you, and that's what you're gonna see on the video, so. And thank you to Kate if she really went over the top to try to put this all together. So here we go. Well, you can see it on that.
Come on, little shop, stop, shop, pop. Never stop to tell her, little shop,
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for. Searching in the dark, your sweat soaking through the floor. And buried in your bones, there's an ache that you can't ignore. Taking your breath, stealing your mind, and all that was real is left behind. Don't fight it, it's coming for you, running at you. It's only this moment, don't care what comes after. Your fever dream, can't you see, getting closer. Just surrender, cause you feel the feeling taking over. It's fire, it's freedom, it's flooding open. It's the preacher in the pulpit and your blind devotion. Something breaking at the brick of every wall, it's holding all that you know. So tell me, do you wanna go? Where it's covered in the colored lights, it's where the runaways are running the night. Impossible comes true, it's taking over you. Oh, this is the greatest show.
Do you know what Angelica said when she read what you'd done? She said, you married a Nicholas, and he has flown too close to the sun.
short sample of what we're doing over there. And I'm so proud of the character of these kids. I'll share with you one brief little story, and then if you'd like to ask me any questions, I'll be willing to answer. The kids, we did Little Shop, Wyndham did Little Shop at the same time. So we tried to get it to, so that we could go see their dress rehearsal and they could come see ours, but we couldn't get that to happen. So our show closed a week before their show, and all of our kids went up to Wyndham and watched the performance. And I'm not sure what the Wyndham people expected, but I think they thought that our kids were there to heckle those other kids as teenagers. And our kids were so supportive of that cast and crew. And they stayed afterwards and they met them and they shook hands and they shared stories that we got. Principal Ketch got, I got, Michael Gage got letters from the parents of the other students in Wyndham saying, what a pleasure your group is. So that made me feel almost as good as any performance, because they were carrying what they're learning and the way they feel about each other. And they are so supportive of each other out there into the community. And isn't that what everybody needs right now? You know, so I'm proud to be part of OHP, and I'm so proud of the students, and thank you for giving me that opportunity. Do you have any questions? Anything I can share with you?
Yeah,
Will you come see the next show?
I think you can count on that.
That would be great. That'd be great, because it's worth it. They work so hard. They work so hard. And I'm actually collaborating with Marissa, who's the One Act Play Festival director, and Carrie, who does the Shakespeare program. And we're trying to come up with other opportunities for these kids to go to festivals and just learn and share and become more confident in everything they do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Did you have a comment?
Oh, I was gonna say, do you want to share the age range of the kids that did that master class?
It was middle school and high school.
Yeah,
It was middle school. And the kid with the red hat.
yeah.
Okay. He's a special needs student. He was phenomenal. He was so nervous. He started off the day following me around saying, I don't think I can do this, Deb. I don't think I can do this. And actually ran out of the theater a couple of times. And then his performance that night as a 7th grader, to stand on that stage with those Broadway stars and just let it go. And he did a solo and he was so good. Yeah. So, yeah. And he's playing one of the princes in Into the Woods. So. So thank you so much.
Well, I just want to tell you really quickly, your passion for our students is so evident. And thank you for all of the work you're doing and all the time you give to the kids as
It's
well.
really my pleasure. It's really my pleasure. Education and arts. I hate to say how long I've been in it at this point, but you know, the truth is it's 40 years. So, you know, and I'll continue as long as I can. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, agenda item 7.0 is new business. 7.1 is the second reading of policy EBCC bomb threats. So I will turn this over to Freyla.
Thank you. The policy committee had an opportunity earlier this month at our meeting to look at the policy, and we compared it to the statute. I know that I had some concerns about the mandatory expulsion, and I think it became very evident that is required by state law. So there's really not a lot of discussion to be had about it. So the policy is returning to you for second reading, unchanged from the first version. If you had a chance to review it, there's been no substantive changes made to it, but it is ready at this point to move forward to a second reading if and when you're ready. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Perfect. So let's do I have a motion to approve the second reading of policy EBCC bomb threats as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, can we call the vote?
Sure. Ms. Gannon,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leon,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Mayorino,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff, yes, Mr. Shumway.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Do I have a motion? I'm sorry, agenda item 7.2 is the meeting minutes of January 5th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve them as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Ms. Gammon,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Mayorino,
Yes.
Ms. Turpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
and Mr. Shumway.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Agenda item 7.3 are appointments. 7.3.1 is the Wentworth School Special Education Teacher.
Yes, so Crystal Paradis has been nominated to fill this position created by a staff realignment. Ms. Paradis received her bachelor's degree in leadership at USM and is currently working towards her master's degree in special education. She was an Ed Tech 3 in special education at Wentworth School for 3 years, and for the last year has been a special education teacher in RSU 57, Alfred Elementary School.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to approve the Wentworth School Special Education Teacher as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right.
Ms. Gammon,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Mayorino,
Yes.
Ms. Turpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
and Mr. Shumway.
Yes.
Right. Agenda item 7.3.2 is the Pleasant Hill School Special Education Teacher.
Emma Dickinson has been chosen to fill this position created by resignation. Ms. Dickinson received her bachelor's degree in college studies with a concentration in supporting students with disabilities in the classroom from the University of Maine at Machias. She was an ed tech with the Kittery School Department for 2 years and most recently was an ed tech at 8 Corners School for the last 3 years.
Do I have a motion to approve the Pleasant Hill School Special Education Teacher as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Ms. Gammon,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Mayorino,
Yes.
Ms. Turpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
and Mr. Shumway.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Agenda item 8.0 is a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056C for the purpose of discussion or consideration of the condition, acquisition, or the use of real or personal property permanently attached to real property or interest therein, or disposition of publicly held property or economic development. Only a premature disclosures of the information would prejudice the competitive or bargaining position of the body or agency not to return to public session. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right.
Ms. Gammon,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Mayorino,
Yes.
Ms. Turpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
and Mr. Shumway.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Agenda item 9.0 is adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right.
Ms. Gammon,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Mayorino,
Yes.
Ms. Turpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
and Mr. Shumway.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much and have a good evening.